Everyone, and thank you for joining us today for the first event of Mason's newly established university-wide Center for Humanities Research. I am Ann Artis. I have the pleasure as well as the privilege of serving as the Dean of the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. And I want to begin by thanking two people who played very important roles in the earliest stages of planning for the establishment of this new transdisciplinary center, who are no longer at Mason: Provost David Wu and Deb Crawford, VP for Research. In fact, one of the first documents David shared with me after I accepted this job in May 2018, but several months before I'd actually started here, was an early iteration of the planning group's proposal. And Deb was incredibly generous, met multiple times with the planning group throughout the development process. So I want to be sure we recognize today David and Deb's strong and steadfast support of this initiative throughout a multi-year exploration and planning process. I also take this opportunity to thank President Washington and Provost Ginsburg for their equally enthusiastic support for the establishment of this center, as both of them have moved into their new roles at Mason this year, and as the review process for this center's establishment was coming to conclusion. Today's virtual panel discussion is an opportunity to formally introduce the Center for Humanities Research and its planned activities, answer questions from faculty and graduate students, and solicit ideas for future center activities and programs. It's also an opportunity to introduce Allison Landsberg as the center's inaugural director, and to thank the planning group for their collaborations in the design thinking work for this center over the last 2.5 years. In addition to Allison, the planning group includes Denise Albanese, Cultural Studies, Maria de Cake, Religious Studies, Rachel Jones, Philosophy, Matt Karush, History and Art History, Christina Olson, Modern and Classical Languages, and Deborah Latanzi Shutica, English. I think some of them, but not all of them, are here today. I very much look forward to working with Allison, with the planning group, which is now serving as an internal advisory board and will be built out further, presumably subsequently. And then also with Orly Dade, Rebecca Hirsch, and their colleagues in the research office, all of whom I know join me in wanting nothing but absolute and grand success for this new center. So welcome everyone, and thank you, Allison, for taking on this important and exciting new role at Mason. I think some of you know, in this context, I think I can name myself as a recovering Humanities Research Center director. You know, was an inaugural director for a center at University of Delaware, served in that role for 9 years. Allison, you're in for a grand ride. You know, there's really nothing better than supporting faculty and graduate student research in multidisciplinary and collaborative modes in that kind of a role. So thank you for taking this on, and thank you all for being here today.
Thank you so much, Anne. Thank you for that introduction. But more importantly, thank you for your enthusiastic support of this center from the outset. Your encouragement, suggesting that we think bigger, in effect gave us permission to imagine the kind of programming, both internal and external, that we ultimately ended up proposing. Michelle Schweitz, the Associate Dean for Research and Chess, was helpful and supportive as well, and I want to thank her for that. I also want to echo Anne in thanking Deb Crawford and former Provost Wu for listening to us in the humanities and actively responding to our sense that humanities research received neither the same attention nor support as STEM. It was Deb Crawford who suggested that we should apply to be one of the university's transdisciplinary research centers. After receiving our written feedback from external reviewers, Rebecca Hirsch, the Interim Associate VP for Research and Innovation, advised and shepherded us through the second tier oral presentation before an external review committee, and we're grateful for her assistance. Finally, we'd like to thank Orly Dade, Interim VP for Research, Innovation, and Economic Impact, not only for supporting, but for chartering our Center for Humanities Research. Thank you as well to Provost Ginsburg and President Washington for supporting and funding this initiative. I'm now going to turn the floor over to Orly Dade for a few comments, and then we'll begin our presentation. Orly, are you around?
Sorry about that. I shrunk down the screen just as I was trying to make my remarks. This is a wonderful size for this launch. I'm so excited to be here today. I'm delighted to welcome everyone to the inaugural event for the Center for Humanities Research. I will keep my remarks very brief. I do want to acknowledge that Mason is already known as one of the top universities in the country for humanities research and scholarship. This center will leverage the already significant strengths in the humanities at Mason and connect our scholars with each other and the international community in new and exciting ways. Before chartering this university center, as Allison and Anne mentioned, we carried out an external review of the proposal, tapping top humanities scholars to provide feedback on the center proposal. I would like to share a reviewer comment, anonymous, not crediting it to anyone, but to give you a sense of how colleagues at other universities see the promise of this center. Quote, "This is an ambitious, exciting, and timely proposal. Now, more than ever, humanities research needs support to develop and grow its many contributions to intellectual and public life. The center makes a strong case that the center is more than the sum of its parts. Many faculty, students, and staff will be able to see themselves in the goals and projects that are outlined, allowing for diverse and active participation by numerous stakeholders on campus and in the broader GMU communities and region," end quote. Something that struck me personally as I read the proposal was how focused and collaborative this team is, as well as the fabulous structured and maybe more importantly, unstructured opportunities that this center will create that will surely lead to innovation and new collaborations. I'm very excited to be at this event today and to hear from the center faculty and the larger community about all the fabulous activities to come. Thank you. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Orly. I want to just welcome everybody. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy lives to be here today with us. We're delighted to have you here. We have a hopefully on the brief side presentation of what we have done and what the center will offer all of us. And then we want to have plenty of time for discussion. We want to hear from you guys. We want to answer your questions. We want to listen to your ideas, and we look forward to that. I'm going to start a PowerPoint now, so bear with me as I do that. But I want to say also, I want to thank my amazing colleagues on the planning committee. This has been a collaborative project through and through, and I have to say that I think for all of us, it's been an absolute labor of love. Can everybody see this?
I can.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, good.
Okay. Okay, so this is just a brief overview of what we're going to be doing today. We will have brief introductions. There'll be a brief history of how we got to this place. We'll describe to you our visions and goals. We'll describe to you our planned programming, and we'll open the floor for questions, comments, and suggestions. Oh, there you go, Christina. Anne already introduced the planning committee, but I'll just reiterate, it's Denise Albanese from Cultural Studies, Maria DeCake from Religious Studies, Rachel Jones from Philosophy, Matthew Karish from History and Art History, Rachel Lewis from Women and Gender Studies, Christina Olson from Modern and Classical Languages, and Deborah Latanzi-Shudica from English.
This is Matt Karish. Let me start with providing a brief history of the Center for Humanities Research, which actually has an improbable origin story. Back in the fall of 2017, the university published a draft of its new strategic plan, along with a request for feedback. Seeing that request, I responded. I sent in feedback to the effect that faculty in the humanities found the strategic plan draft demoralizing, particularly because its discussion of research ignored our contributions. The draft communicated a sense that research was something that happened outside of the humanities, And the language of the strategic plan draft seemed to confirm a larger sense common to many of us that the university did not adequately value and support humanities research. Much to my surprise, in response to my posted feedback, Deb Crawford, the vice president for research, reached out to me and suggested putting together a group of faculty from across the humanities at Mason to discuss how we could rectify this problem. How could we get more university support for humanities research? And also, how could we make our contributions more visible and legible, understandable to the larger community at Mason and beyond? I took that invitation seriously. With the help of chairs and directors, I recruited a faculty planning committee. Over the last 2.5 years, that committee, chaired expertly by Maria Dekek, has met to discuss these problems and to design a solution. At every step, and again, much to my surprise, I should say, at every step, our work has been met with impressive enthusiasm, support, and guidance from the administration, both of the college, but also of the university. We've had, as has already been said, the support and expert advice of Dean Artis, but also of Deb Crawford and of the Provost's office more generally. What emerged early on in these discussions in the planning group was the idea for a Center for Humanities Research. It was the vice president, Deb Crawford, who suggested that this was a significant enough idea that it could be one of the transdisciplinary centers that receives funding from the Provost's office. And then on top of that, the college generously offered to complement that support with its own significant funding. Thanks to all of this support, we are able to launch the center today. It's a center that builds on the tremendous strengths of the humanities at Mason. There's the gong. So yes, the humanities at Mason. Mason is the 8th largest recipient of funding from the National Endowment of the Humanities nationwide. For 3 years in a row, it's received more than $20 million in sponsored research. Mason Humanities, of course, has a strong record of book publications, and we intend to build on all of this success through the Center for Humanities Research. The center will allow us to improve on this impressive record of scholarly productivity. And as I said at the outset, it will make, or at least it will strive to make humanities research both more visible, but also crucially, I think, more legible to the university community and to communities beyond the university. Next slide, please. Someone might be muted there.
Sorry about that. It had to happen at least once. This is Maria. As I was saying, but you couldn't hear me, as the planning committee proceeded to develop its proposal for this center and all of its various activities that you'll hear more about in a minute, our plans were inspired by a broad vision for the humanities and their significance and their potential to contribute in a more interactive and, as Matt said, a more visible way to the intellectual life of the Mason community as a whole. The Center for Humanities Research was and is committed to the idea of the humanities as naturally engaged scholarship, whose research areas and methods of inquiry can make essential contributions to research done across the university in a wide variety of disciplines. We wanted to create a center that would be a resource for humanities faculty as well as for faculty across campus who feel that their research would benefit from engagement with the humanities. The center also understands the humanities as a public good, with a critical role to play in addressing our most pressing social, political, and ethical issues, from the ethics of science and technology to the persistence of inequalities rooted in class, race, and gender. As a set of essential disciplines and the humanities grapples with complex issues, encourages informed dialogue, facilitates cross-cultural and intergenerational understanding, promotes inclusive public discourse, and feeds the public imagination. We intend the center to be a place where those involved in humanities-related research will be able to critically engage on a regular basis with scholarly fields of inquiry beyond their home disciplines, and even beyond the walls of academia itself. We hope that the center will be a place where the humanities are not only part of the conversation around various core issues, but the center of the conversation, providing a space, intellectual and physical, where humanities concerns and approaches are foregrounded. Next slide, please.
Hello, this is Rachel from Philosophy. The Centre will act as an incubator for humanities research and a space for scholarly exchange. In planning its activities, our aim was to enrich the environment and strengthen the conditions for humanities research at Mason, both by providing practical support and by cultivating a vibrant intellectual community. One of the Centre's aspirations is to facilitate a change in campus culture, while recognizing that many humanities faculty conduct their research off campus and that many of our most important research relationships are with colleagues at other institutions and indeed around the world. Our aim is for the Centre to be a hub of humanities activity, conversation, collaboration, and creativity. In the near future, these activities will be hosted in a virtual environment, but as we go forward, we'll transition to making the most of the Centre's new dedicated space on the 6th floor of Horizon Hall, where many humanities faculty will be based. This space will serve not only as the campus home for the Centre, but as a place where faculty and student working groups can meet and where more spontaneous conversations can arise. The Centre's Faculty Fellowship Programme will support faculty research excellence by offering course release so as to allow dedicated time for the pursuit of scholarly projects. At the same time, humanities research thrives best when scholars are able to engage in intellectual discussion and to share lines of critical inquiry with others in the humanities, as well as across academic disciplines and areas. The Centre will organise both large and small-scale events to foster the connections that allow humanities research to flourish and to be shared across a variety of communities. We are therefore committed to the model of the residential fellowship that gives faculty time to pursue their individual research projects while asking them to be present and to participate in the Centre's activities, providing them with a dynamic intellectual environment that will facilitate the exchange of ideas and allow research synergies to emerge. Despite the impressive success of Mason's humanities faculty in obtaining external research funding, the relatively limited and highly competitive nature of such funding means that only a small percentage of humanities research is currently supported through external grants and awards at Mason. The Centre will provide support for individual and collaborative grant applications, as well as seeding the communities for larger transdisciplinary funding projects. In addition to energising faculty research, the Centre will facilitate interaction between faculty and students so as to foster the next generation of humanities scholars. The Centre will provide support for graduate students to help them advance their work and opportunities for them to engage with faculty from their own and other humanities disciplines. We will partner with the Office of Student Scholarship, Creative Activities and Research, OSCAR, to augment opportunities for undergraduate research in the humanities and enable Mason's undergraduate students to play a role in the life of the Centre. Finally, the Centre is committed to the interdisciplinary dimensions of humanities research and to a vision of the humanities as socially engaged scholarship. Through their particular areas of expertise and methods of inquiry, humanities scholars can make essential contributions to research being taken across the university in a wide variety of disciplines. Through its programs and events, the Centre aims to increase the opportunities for research partnerships and collaborations, both within Chess and across Mason's colleges and campuses, as well as with its interdisciplinary institutes and centres. Humanities faculty have collaborated with the Carter Centre for Peace and Conflict Resolution and helped to shape the vision for the Institute for Digital Innovation. They are founding members of the Centre for Advancing Human-Machine Partnerships and the Institute for a Sustainable Earth. They also play leading roles in key initiatives, such as the development of Mason's Responsible Conduct of Research Training Program, and most recently, President Washington's Anti-Racism and Inclusive Excellence Task Force. The Center will further these collaborative efforts by making humanities research more visible and more accessible to our colleagues across the Mason community, and reinforcing the value and the relevance of humanities research to the university's strategic initiatives and the wider communities of which Mason is a part. Next slide, please.
The Center for Humanities Research will provide an important link to humanities institutions and organizations in the DC region. The center will build on established relationships already mentioned with the NEH, Virginia Humanities, the Smithsonian Institution, and the Library of Congress, and will work with local humanities organizations, mainly through libraries and local museums in the counties surrounding Mason. And the center will work to build bridges between the campus and the wider community, first by supporting the work of faculty who are already engaged in public humanities, and second, by partnering with established humanities projects. Our goal is to expand the scope and number of community partnerships and to promote public-facing activities and projects. Next slide. So how are we going to engage with public-facing events and programming? One of the ways that we'll do that is we'll partner with some of our established public humanities programs already on campus. We'll partner exclusively with Watershed Lit, which is a new public humanities center in the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. And that brings together Fall for the Book, the Chew Center, Poetry Daily, Stillhouse Press, and the Northern Virginia Writing Project. And we'll also be looking for partnerships with the Roy Rosenzweig Center for History and New Media. In addition, we'll be looking to build bridges with the Northern Virginia business community. We'd like to do a Books at Work program, working with local offices to create book clubs that can be happening during work hours, at lunch, etc. And we'll be hosting dialogues about the humanities at work for undergraduates. And in addition, we'll be working and building a broad base for further internship programs for students, both at the graduate and undergraduate level. Next slide.
Thanks. I'd like to talk a little bit about, more specifically, about the planned programming that we have, that we've designed. In order to foster generative research conversations, collaborations, and perhaps even partnerships among fellows in the campus community more broadly, many of the center's activities will be organized around an annual theme, selected with interdisciplinary reach and relevance in mind. The theme will inform both the fellowship program, the symposium, and some of the ongoing programming for each semester. Later today, Christina will unveil the center's first theme. The center, as Rachel also mentioned, will host a residential fellowship program. We'll be hosting 4 faculty fellows per semester. The dissertation completion fellowships are also residential, and we plan to offer 2 each semester. In addition to providing unencumbered writing time, these fellowships for advanced doctoral students will allow these students nearing completion of their programs the opportunity to present and discuss their research with faculty outside of their own thesis committees and departments, and with graduate students in other programs. We plan to host symposia related to the annual theme. These symposia will feature a keynote address and will draw scholars from both Mason and beyond. Toward our goal of engaging the public in the intellectual and cultural life of the humanities, the symposia will also feature outward-facing programming, such as a public talk or a thematically related performance or reading. In conjunction with the symposia, the center will run a symposium seminar for advanced undergraduates. Students will apply to participate in a brief seminar leading up to the symposium, focused on its theme and on the research of the keynote speaker. In preparation for the symposium, the seminar will convene to discuss the scholar's work and related texts, And at the symposium, the seminar will have its own private session with a speaker. The students will each earn a Humanities Center certificate afterward that they can put on their resume or CV. The center will also support humanities research that goes beyond the annual theme. While the theme will offer an organizing mechanism for ongoing center discussions, there will also be space for other non-theme related research activity, talks, and so forth. The center will award small research grants for GMU faculty conducting research in the humanities. These grants will also be open to 9-month term faculty to pursue summer research. The center will host regular talks, both formal and informal. While the recipients of the research grants and fellowships will be required to present their research as part of the center's activities, we will also invite other faculty members to present research either at our wine and cheese talks, and we're anticipating, I haven't been doing this. The center will also, these people can present their research at wine and cheese talks. We anticipate at least 3 per semester, or at informal lunch talks, some of which will be research talks and others of which will be on the topic of research itself. For instance, we plan to coordinate programming with the Center for the Responsible Conduct of Research program. We anticipate on the one hand, hosting responsible research workshops for graduate students, and on the other, engaging humanities faculty expertise to assist in the RCR in developing responsible research standards for other disciplines. Finally, the group will support topical and/or thematic working groups and reading groups for faculty and graduate students. We've generated the survey to distribute to faculty. It's available on our website, and we'll also be sending it out to all of you. And the survey will enable us to map faculty's current interest along with the interest of their graduate students. A sense of the breadth of research interest along with the areas of overlap will be crucial as we select our annual themes and also in generating potential topics for reading and working groups. While we might propose topics for such groups, we'll also welcome proposals from faculty members and students and invite them to use the space of the center for their discussions.
Hello, Christina Olson here. So I'm going to be introducing to you all the first theme of the center. Our first center theme will be on dissent. And this theme takes direct inspiration from the late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg and from the Black Lives Matter movement. While U.S. constitutional history memorializes Justices John Marshall Harlan, Oliver Wendell Holmes, and William O. Douglas as the great dissenters, the phrase "I dissent" resonates today with the minority reports authored by the late Justice Ginsburg. That is, those that were stripped of its customary adverb of collegiality, the word respectfully. One might think, for example, of her strongly worded dissent in the case of Burwell versus Hobby Lobby from 2014, where the court ruled in favor of exemptions for closely held for-profit companies that claim religious beliefs. Her statement of dissent is unapologetically charged with the anger of one who had witnessed the gradual establishment of women's rights over the course of the 20th century, only to be presented with cases that sought to limit them. Even as we celebrate Ginsburg's notorious dissents, the Black Lives Matter movement reminds us daily and with urgency how crucial dissent is to our democracy and to the ongoing struggle for racial justice. The Center for Humanities Research invites applications from faculty and advanced doctoral candidates whose research broadly interrogates or intersects with the notion of dissent. Articulations of dissent not only signal a deviation from the common opinion, they create the space for personal, social, and political change. While our theme takes inspiration from the legal sphere, we ask, which other discursive spaces have been opened by dissent over time? In which historical, philosophical, religious, and literary texts, contexts, cultural sites, and/or practices can we locate dissent? Whose words, acts, and gestures
are given credence as dissent? And how do the imbrications of race, gender, sexuality, age, class, and ability render dissent legible or allow it to be dismissed? If statements of dissent are classified in the legal sphere as minority reports, then how does dissent gain traction and influence or even become the voice of the majority? How can we trace the relationship between individual dissent and the larger context from which it originates, or the uprisings that result? What does public, collective, or shared dissent look like? Finally, how do, quote, dissents speak to a future age, unquote, as the late Justice Ginsburg once said? So we are going to seek proposals that explain the importance of dissent, broadly construed, to an ongoing research project in any humanistic field of inquiry. The details for applications can be found on our website, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have. Please know that the deadline for all applications is coming up really soon. It'll be November 1st, so please mark that on your calendars. And you will be able to submit the application via our website. Next slide, please.
We want to thank you all for listening to us. We want to share with you our website, which is easy to remember, chr.gmu.edu. You can contact us at our email address, chr@gmu.edu. And now we'd like to open the floor for questions and comments. And I'm going to end the slideshow. And I'm going to invite the panelists, my steering committee, to unmute themselves. And we are going to ask you to raise your hand if you have a question. We've decided not to use chat, so just raise your hands and we will call on people.
Allison, perhaps as people are thinking of questions, we can share the screen and show everyone the website.
Sure. Do you want to do that on your screen?
Sure. Give me 1 second. I don't have a fancy gong though, sorry.
We knew that would happen.
Allison, could you perhaps give instructions for how people can raise their hands? I'm not seeing it on this version of Zoom.
I'm so sorry. I think what you have to do is go to your name on the participant list, and then I think where it says more, is that right, somebody? I can't do it on my own because I can't ask a question at my own presentation, but I think where it says more, there's an option to raise your hand. Is that correct? Yes.
Yes.
Give me a second while I share my screen here. Okay, we have a question from Joanna Bachman.
Hi. So thanks so much. This is so exciting. And so I was just wondering, for faculty that might want to be sort of affiliated or something, is there an affiliation as opposed to just the fellowship program? Thank you.
We've discussed that actually, and what we want is for everybody to be affiliated with the center. I mean, the idea, we really, in creating this, had the idea that this was for all of us, that this is not, you know, we will have people who will be at residence, but we really want other people to be actively involved in the life of the center and to play as active a role as you can. I mean, we toyed with the idea of somehow trying to put all of the humanities faculty on the website. But for the time being, the idea really is that this is for all of us and that we are all affiliated with the Humanities Center. I mean, if down the road, it seems like there's a reason to have a kind of more official affiliation process, we'll consider that. But we really want everybody to feel like this is their center and that they can work there and they can be there and they can have reading groups there. I mean, it's really a space to be used by all of us. Orly?
Yes, just wanted to add my congratulations. This is very exciting, wonderful presentation, and a word of thanks for your thoughtfulness in how you can contribute to the responsible conduct of research ecosystem at the university. I'm really looking forward to see what comes out of that from this group of scholars. So thank you.
Thank you. Joan Bristol.
I'm a little embarrassed. Wait, can you hear me? I'm a little embarrassed because I feel like I might have missed it. And now I'm looking at, I'm trying to find the website, but like, when do things start? Like when's like the lunch talk? I mean, all the things sound great. So like with the talks, I mean, I know you need some fellows first or whatever, but when's the first thing?
So we were only chartered at the beginning of this semester, and so we are trying to hit the ground running. The fellows, all of the sort of fellows in residence begins next semester, but we are going to do our very best to have several events this semester, hopefully around the theme of dissent, hopefully some informal, hopefully some actual talks. It is easy to throw up a whole event on Zoom, so I think this is very, very realizable. I mean, one of the ideas that we had is that we won't be able, obviously, to accept everybody who applies to be a fellow, but that will give us a really excellent pool of scholars who are working on dissent, and we will invite them to speak, and we'll put together panels. So we really do have a lot of ideas about this, but there is actually, as you see on the upcoming events slot, we don't yet have any scheduled upcoming events, but we do hope for there to be events soon.
Right. And I would say that our first real item, I'm not sure, can you hear me right now? Yes? Okay. That our first real item is going to be to, once we launch the faculty survey, and that you can do here on our new website, as you can see here to the right, that we really value your participation in the survey and your input, because it's going to help us, actually with the programming of events, even perhaps this semester, to start to formulate, working groups and connections amongst faculty. So we're really seeking to create those connections and collaborations across the whole university, really not just limited to the college. And so the first thing that's going to happen is that we're going to launch our survey, and we'll hope that you'll all participate. And then we will have other events that will come. I see two hands here. Bethany Usher is first.
Hi, I've hit all the buttons to be able to say hi. Congratulations, first of all. Y'all are doing fabulous work, and I can't wait to see what comes out of this. But of course, I'm going to ask the question about undergraduates. I think your students are going to be you've got a whole batch of students who really want to be involved in these questions and are active like this. What kind of routes do you have for students to get involved in the scholarship you're doing?
Well, I would just reiterate that the first idea that we had is this idea of the symposium seminar, which is an opportunity. Students will apply to be part of this, and they'll really have the opportunity to sort of engage with faculty members and maybe graduate students and read the work of the scholar who will come and give a talk, and then they'll get to meet the scholar, and they'll be able to have, an actual session with them, a sort of private session with this person whose work they read, to ask them questions, to engage in dialogue with them, and we'll award them a kind of certificate at the end. So this is, that's kind of a small thing, but that's the first thing that we've sort of built in. But we're, absolutely open to working with Oscar and to figuring out how we can best incorporate undergraduates into this. Obviously in the public humanities side, we're very interested in, part of the idea of reaching out to the business community is to develop relationships with them, to introduce students to the idea that employers are actually really interested in humanities undergraduates, and that you don't need to major in a pre-professional program to be hired, And so we thought we would try to create a pipeline that way as well, so that people can see the humanities at work.
Terrific. Can I make one suggestion?
Please do.
Research using undergraduate work study students as research assistants. Oscar will facilitate that, and doing it where there's a way they're like targeted for the work that y'all are doing might be another way of being able to help set up that pipeline to introduce students into that. So if you reach out to Oscar, they can certainly help you. And I would really like for students to be able to see this as a viable area of research and introduced to it when they start perusing, because I think it's really fabulous work.
I love that idea. Thank you very much.
And terrific. I'll turn myself back off again, but thank y'all for doing this.
Thank you. Ellie?
Thanks, Allison, and my thanks to you and the panel for this exciting work. I'm really psyched about it. My question is on resourcing. You talked a bit about the human resourcing, the manpower, person power. What's the funding line look like in the future, and how does that funding line take us into the future so this becomes a sustainable center versus a couple years and then we get tired of it?
I can start, and then I hope my colleagues will jump in. Because of the screen, I can't see anybody. Maybe Kristen, do you want to stop sharing the screen and we can see?
Oh,
sorry.
Yes, sure.
Thank you. We're very grateful to the Provost's office for chartering this center for 5 years. And so we have committed funding for 5 years. Presuming we don't do something terrible in those 5 years, hopefully we'll be rechartered. So we have this funding. However, we are very committed to attracting external funding as well. And that's really obviously important to our mission, and it will be important to our long-term well-being as a center. It seems to be the case that there is much more funding available for public humanities. And there is indeed funding for public humanities. And so that will be the place where we will begin, I think, sort of applying for grants. We will be hiring an associate director as soon as possible. And part of the work for this associate director will be to do grant writing and to help us with the sort of fundraising dimension of the center. So I know that we want to apply for the Mellon Sawyer seminar series. Those are very hard to get, but that would be a really terrific kind of resource for us. We, as Deb Schudica mentioned, the Virginia Humanities Alliance doesn't really have a partner in Northern Virginia. And so we want very much to be their partner. And we're hoping that we can engage in projects with them and that we'll be able to attract some funding that way. So this is something that we are, acutely aware of, the need to attract external funding. But we are secure, presumably for the first 5 years. Ayandala.
Hi, first of all, I'm so excited about the center and congratulations to the steering committee. I can't wait to live in this center day and night. I just want to give one suggestion that I'm of course borrowing from institutions in my past. If maybe there can be, and this is not, this is very comprehensive, so this is not a criticism, just a suggestion for maybe in the future, maybe after the 5 years, a small award for method equipment. I think that method in the humanities doesn't get a lot of love. And so maybe a small $500 award twice a year for photography equipment or archival film research or tape recorders, or maybe even a lending program, a small office where humanities students can borrow that kind of thing. But all the method that is required for people to carry out that research, maybe an award or maybe a lending program would be cool.
That's a great idea.
Great idea.
Yeah, I love the idea of having technology that can be shared and signed out by folks. That's a really great idea. Thank you.
Can I just jump in here for 1 second, just to add that in the budget that we laid out in the planning process, we did include funds that would be for, not exactly for method, but let's say to assist with publication or getting rights for images to include in your book. So there is also the possibility of the center funding and, at a small level, like you said, a few $100s, $500, but assisting in smaller ways with the work of faculty in book publishing or, some of their other needs related to their research.
Christy.
Hi, everyone. I want to echo the excitement and the incredible thanks to all of the people involved in this effort. For those who have never participated in a humanities center before, not all institutions have them. I had the great fortune of having one at my PhD granting institution, and it was a transformative experience for me intellectually, and it was home to many of the types of initiatives that you are putting forward. And this one, I think, is beautifully Masonized. And thinking about this moment, I'm very happy to see the connection to the Anti-Racism Inclusive Excellence Task Force. And I'm wondering along those lines, whether there is a particular process for proposing a reading group. I would be interested in proposing a reading group on critical race theory, where all would be invited and where we can look at some of the foundational texts together so that knowledge about critical race theory can continue to spread through our faculty and through our student body. So is there a formalized process yet?
We have no formalized processes for anything yet, but you know, I am sure that I speak for the rest of the steering committee when I say that a critical race theory working group is precisely the kind of thing we had in mind. You know, so we will you know, discuss, and we will put on the website information about how to request a working group. But I think that's just a fabulous idea that is kind of urgent right now and will attract a lot of interest, I think, from graduate students and faculty alike. So I think it's a terrific idea, and I thank you for that, Christy.
Thank you all so much. I'm super excited.
Could I quickly, on the website, just to note to you all, obviously it's not done yet. This is all in progress, but we do have under supported research, we are going to be listing, you know, center supported research projects, center supported, you know, working groups and so forth. And like Allison said, we can add a mechanism so that people can submit feedbacks, you know, that is pointed for creating one of those groups. Thanks, Christy.
I would just add that for the time being, I am perfectly happy to accept email requests. I mean, we've created an email address for the center, which I am now receiving, and it's just chr@gmu.edu. So for the time being, you know, while the iron is hot, please feel free to email with ideas for reading and working groups, and then we will establish a more formal mechanism. But for now, feel free to send your proposal that way. Ide?
Hi. Yeah, this is very exciting, and I can't wait to see what comes out of the center. Thank you all for doing all this. I see on the website that under Residential Faculty Fellowship Program, it says it aims to accept faculty from as wide a range of disciplines and programs as possible, and I think that's a wonderful thing to say. I was curious what would be the center's stance on offering fellowships or research grants to faculty who are not necessarily teaching courses like professional or admin faculty, but who are still interested in conducting research in their areas of expertise.
So the fellowships themselves are really, they are really sort of designed for the full-time faculty who are who will be able to, with a fellowship, spend the entire semester focused on the research project. However, we welcome other term faculty, admin faculty to apply for research funding through the research grants, for summer funding. These opportunities are really available to all people doing research on humanities research on campus. And so we would welcome your participation through those grant programs. I don't know, Matt, did you want to add something to that?
I was going to say what you said,
okay.
that you know, that the mechanism of the residential fellowship is for now at least is course release. So it's for people that have courses to to be released from, so as to concentrate on the research. But yes, the centers, or right from the beginning, will be doing these other, will be supporting research financially through other programs, so small research grants, etc. And those will be open.
And that will be starting for this coming summer. So, Rebecca.
Hi, thank you. It's a little delayed since there are lots of people that talked in between, but I wanted to say two things. One is, as the person who worked most closely with all of the external reviewers and was able to listen to them as their comments, could not be more thrilled to see this come to fruition. And they, to a person, had just glowing support for this. Again, they were represented from across the country, as well as then the comments that I think you took to heart and strengthened your application, which was strong to begin with. So just again, kudos to you. In response to the question about, ongoing support, and I hope others now who are here will know that the Office of Research is absolutely committed to the success of this center. And to that end, we will be working with you from the Research Development Services team to be looking for research opportunities, to be assisting with you in proposal development. And so again, our commitment to external funding for the work that you are doing is really strong, and we cannot wait and looking forward to working with you on that.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. That's really great to hear. Holly Mason.
Hi, hello. This is so exciting. I love that the center is going to provide so much opportunity for collaboration for students, all the opportunity it's going to provide. A thought occurred to me as I was hearing other recommendations and ideas that something that could also potentially set this center apart in terms of Mason's campus and beyond is perhaps looking for ways to include staff in programming. Mason staff, many Mason staff are also invested scholars, and that's why they're here. They love academia. They're committed to topics that the center will be exploring as well. So that would be just a recommendation that I have, with thinking about reading groups and working groups. That would be super cool to provide those opportunities to staff too, I think.
Thank you so much, Holly. I mean, I think that absolutely 100% staff would be invited to participate in working groups and reading groups, for sure. Thank you for that. Other questions, comments, suggestions? Michelle.
Hello, everybody. Michelle Schweitz here. I just want to say how exciting it is to see the first theme that the Center for Humanities Research has announced. And I think, and I hope all in attendance today can see the broad application of this theme to many scholars across the university. It's timely, it's of great interest to many people, and I think it speaks to the intellectual community that you'll be building on campus. So I just want to applaud you as this great example of your first initiative.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Tamara.
This is awesome. Can you hear me? I feel like,
yes.
Headphones, awesome. I was wondering about extant working groups that sort of fit under this umbrella, like the Early Americas working group that we're part of, that don't need support unless you want to provide lunch or something when lunch is possible. But it might be useful to collect on the website because a lot of times those working groups sort of work invisibly. It's a small group and it runs by emails. And so maybe that is also actually something that the Humanities Center could support, is some kind of mechanism for publicizing some of these working groups that already exist.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and it's a reminder that part of the vision here is to make the center an intellectual hub, you know, and that's in response to a felt need, right? The sense that we're all doing exciting work, and sometimes we do it less visibly than we might, right? Sometimes we don't know all of the great stuff that our colleagues are doing, and so the center has that potential. So I definitely think, you know, we're gonna try to incorporate and include and make visible as many ongoing working groups as we can find and are as interested in joining.
Could I quickly add something? Oh, sorry. Rachel, go ahead.
Thanks, Christina. I think that connects very much to this sort of double facing vision we had for the center, which is to really lift up and make visible. There's already, like, we're really privileged to start from where we start. There's amazing research and work going on, and all of us probably see a piece of it. So one of the things we wanted the center to do was to make the incredible work that's already going on more visible, more legible, more accessible to each other, but also perhaps to other parts of the university for whom it might be even more difficult to sort of see the kind of work that humanities scholars are doing, and to make connections between humanities work within our college, where those of us on the steering committee were based, but also those across many other colleges who either are doing work directly in humanities areas, thinking of the work on narrative at the Carter School and so on, but people who also have an interest in collaborating with the humanities. And so making everything more visible was part of what we wanted to do. And then on the other hand, providing the energy, the initiative, and the funding, and the institutional context for really seeding and supporting new initiatives as well. So it's both sort of raising up what we're already doing and seeding and supporting new activities and collaborations.
So if I could just quickly add on to Rachel's excellent points too, Tamara, we would be happy to do all of those things, but also we'll have space. And I think that that's the other strength of our center, is that we can offer collaborative space in which to work. And sometimes simply sharing physical space like that can help make those connections. And, you know, so we have space. Tamara, I don't know where your group meets right now. If it meets in Panera, you can instead move it into our space.
We've got nice places in the library, but this would be a great space too.
Yeah, we would love to have you there. And I want to reiterate what Christina just said. And something that was very important to us from the outset was the idea that we didn't want, I mean, here we are now on Zoom, but the idea was that we really did not want to be an abstract humanities center that existed, you know, like by sort of just networks of affiliation. We wanted to have an actual institutional space, because that's symbolically really important, right? That's the university's investment in the humanities, and we take that incredibly serious, and we're very grateful that you know, that we were allowed to have space, and we want to use that space. So I mean, that's also in response to Johanna's original question. I mean, we all want the center to be a space where people come and work, people have lunch together, people discuss what they're working on. We want this to be a site for intellectual exchange, you know, as much and as often as possible. I mean, I really think that, you know, should we ever get over this god-awful pandemic, we're going to be really starving for sort of human interaction. And I want the center to be a space where everybody feels welcome, where people can bring their work. You can bring your laptop, you can set up shop and work, you know, in the center. We really invite this and welcome this, and we think that, you know, in those kinds of informal discussions, really great synergies and potential collaborations can emerge. So we support that very much. And the last thing I wanted to add here is that we've already been contacted by the Intellectual Life Committee at the college, because they are right now also trying to find a way to sort of consolidate and become a hub, you know, provide a hub for information about all of the sort of intellectual life that's going on in the college. And so we will try to work with them so that we can, on our website, sort of showcase a lot of the work that's happening and a lot of the events that are taking place in the college and beyond in terms of sort of humanities related work. Austin?
First off, thanks, and want to say congrats. I think this is awesome and really exciting news. I do have one question / suggestion. Did you request a GA from the provost office to like support the center? I know they've given other centers in the past GA lines, and you could definitely get a professional assistant to help with symposium planning and the other like programs. And that way, if one of the grad students who are interested in alt-ac positions with teaching line items, but also the like center experience, would be able to get more experience in that realm. And I think that could be really helpful. And like, I know like the provost office, especially the graduate education side, they have given different departments graduate professional assistants before. So that's just something y'all could think about doing. If they're already committed to funding y'all for the 5 years, why not throw in a GA?
It's a brilliant idea, Austin. Thank you. Do you know who we should contact about that in particular?
I do, actually. So you're going to want to talk to Akita Robertson, and I can send you all the information offline if you would like.
Thanks. I have had a lot of contact over the years with Akita, so I have her email. Thank you so much. That's really helpful. Yeah. Gabby.
Oh, hi. So just again, I mean, what a celebratory moment. And I think just from the enthusiasm of imagining that we can all be somewhere when we come back, it's really hopeful and a great deal of work. And just to go back to the idea of space, that was one of my questions, was aside from the conceptual space that is being offered and looking at the actual raising of visibility, what is the space like, and what's the venue like in terms of being able to really showcase the work within the center space itself, or do you envision parsing it out across the campus? So just kind of getting a sense of what will this actually look like when it opens.
Are you waiting for some? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have not been in Horizon Hall. I was not able to make the tour that was offered, I think in March or April, or maybe it was later than that. Maybe it was May. Anyway, so it's going to be on the top floor of Horizon Hall. The sort of glass tip on the far sort of side near the Johnson Center. And from what we can tell from the architectural renderings, it will be, a very light and airy, beautiful, pleasant space to be. There'll be lots of tables and chairs. There might be one enclosed area that could be an office. It's not an actual office, but it could be used maybe by the associate director. When we were originally thinking about space, we wanted very much to have offices for the fellows, but obviously given the scarcity of offices right now, that was not really on the table. But I think that we'll be, I think, able to arrange the space a bit in the tip. And I know that there are a lot of tables and desks and chairs and comfortable chairs, and but I honestly can't tell you because I haven't been in there, because it hasn't actually been finished yet. Maybe other people, I don't know if Anne knows more or if anybody else knows more and wants to chime in.
Happy to do that, Allison. And, let's all keep our fingers crossed that the building continues to be on time, that COVID cases don't slow down the construction, et cetera. If you have in hand the FAQ on the building that went out after the meeting, a week and a half ago, about the building, you'll see in the slides, as Allison was saying, the 6th floor, the curved end of the building is honestly the most beautiful part of the new building. The light is spectacular. The downside of that is that if you're looking for, I'm thinking, Gabi, your question, it's not going to have a lot of wall space to put things on walls, because the windows are most of the sort of the architectural feature of that space. But on each of the floors that Chess is moving into, that tier-shaped part of the building is set up as space for adjuncts and TAs. So it's comparable in its design to what is available on each of the other floors. If you remember that the campus plan slide, the GTA adjunct areas on each floor are adjacent to the community kitchens. So you'll be able to access the space either from the hallway or from the kitchen. And the kitchens are imagined as community spaces as well, specifically open only in that case to graduate students and faculty. There are lots of other sort of casual, comfy spaces in the building that are open to all kinds of students, but the kitchens in particular are designated for sort of chess faculty and graduate students. And then that again, the tip of the building that faces the Johnson Center has, I would have to look at the slide to think about how many seats, but a couple long tables, sort of library kinds of tables. And as Allison was saying, on the other floors, there are 2 hoteling rooms, if you will. So where someone who is wanting to work with a student privately would be able to schedule themselves small, just a little table with room for 2 people, possibly 4. I think they're outfitted for 2. In the case of that 6th floor space, I think what we've talked through in the planning process is that one of those 2 hoteling rooms would be the designated space for the associate director, who has not been hired yet. But fingers crossed the building will finish on time, and a real sense of urgency really about moving forward with that hire, because obviously that's a critical new piece of support for the center's activities.
Thank you. Susie?
Yes, I just wanted to, first of all, say congratulations. This is incredibly good news. And also, I came late to the meeting because I was teaching, so you may have said something about this already, but as the internship director in our Department of History and Art History, I am hoping that some of the programming at the center will be about career development for particularly undergraduates, but also graduates, I guess. But this idea of, we all know the PR problem humanities have in terms of like, oh, your parents don't want you to get a humanities degree because you can't get a job. And I really am committed in our department to changing that narrative. And I see the center as a way to really do that in a broader public way. And it could involve, as we've said before, alumni coming and having panel discussions about how their humanities degree has informed their career, as well as just having our faculty have discussions about how their education led them to the path they're on. But I really hope that the center can really put a big push on that, because I feel like we need the broader public to understand what humanities degrees do and the careers that they can lead to.
I'll just say, I think, Allison, you touched on this a little bit before. We're hoping to build very strong relationships with our local community, the business community. So one of the things that, even though the center itself is really sort of focused primarily on sort of research, but we want everyone to be involved in that, including undergraduates. And so one of the things that we talked about was having people from businesses in the local community come in and talk about the value that humanities graduates offer to them as employees. And and I think you mentioned the Books at Work program as well, which is something suggested to us. This is a program where faculty or maybe graduate students from Mason might go and lead a reading group at a local workplace. And of course we can do that here at our at George Mason as well. But a way of building links with business leaders and other types of community organizations as well. I think it's an important part of what we see for the
Yeah, and other centers do this humanities at work. They have these humanities at work type programming, and we're interested definitely in pursuing that in the way that Maria suggested. We think the Books at Work program will work that way as well if we develop relationships with some of these local businesses. And this would also sort of open up the possibility of internships as well. So it's definitely on our radar for sure. Thank you. Eleanor Weiss.
Hi, yeah, I'm the new director of development for the college, and I want to offer the services of our team. This is an area where we absolutely have some ability to help you and to connect with the business community, to connect with alumni, to connect with people who would want to come serve on those panels, help with the internship program, help with humanities at work, and potentially then ultimately help to fund aspects of the center. So please do keep us in mind as you build out a steering committee of supporters that are helping you navigate that kind of work. Happy to be there.
Thank you so much. That's absolutely wonderful to hear. And we will certainly be in touch with you. Thank you.
Sure.
Other questions?
I just add a piece to the conversation, the question that Suzanne brought up about sort of changing the narrative about the relevance of humanities research, and just to loop back to the aspects of the centre's activities that Deb was speaking to in particular. So as well as the work that Maria really helpfully outlined, sort of drawing connections with businesses, I think the whole public humanities side of the centre's activities is somewhere that has the power to kind of change that narrative in all kinds of interesting ways, showing how humanities research is relevant in all kinds of ways to the communities that Mason's part of, and to very different communities in different ways. So I think that public humanities part is also a crucial part of changing that kind of conversation and narrative.
Anything else? Any other questions, suggestions, ideas for us to consider? All right, well, maybe that's it. Any of the panelists have any of my colleagues have anything they want to add here?
I'm just really pleased to see all of this enthusiasm, both in the comments and the excellent suggestions, but also in the sheer number of participants. We're an hour and 15 minutes in, and we still have over 100. I'm very impressed and very happy. So thank you all for your commitment to supporting this new center.
And please email us with ideas should they come to you afterwards.
And I just want to reiterate how strongly we feel that this is really your center. I mean, it just feels like a really, really, positive thing. Like it's just for us. It's just for all of us to use, and, people to come and give talk. If you want to give a talk, let us know. If you want to put together a panel discussion, let us know. If you're a group of graduate students and you want to put together a panel, you're 100% welcome to do this. Let us know. We want your ideas. So this is your center, and we want to make it as available and as useful to all of you as it can possibly be. All right. Well, I guess we're done.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. We look forward to working with you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Bye.